Now we start with the huge anti-Semitic storm that's hanging over the Labour Party once again, and Sir Keir Starmer has defended his decision not to ditch Azhar Ali as the by-election candidate before last night. Sir Keir stood by Ali on Sunday after anti-Semitic comments from Labour's candidate for the by-election in Rochdale came to public attention. And that was a clip of Ali suggesting that Israel had let Hamas's attack in October happen so the country could attack Gaza in return. Astonishing comment. However, Ali's time was up yesterday when comments he made about people in the media from certain Jewish quarters were made public.
Certain information came to light over the weekend in relation to the candidate. There was a fulsome apology. Further information came to light yesterday calling for decisive action. So I took decisive action. It is a huge thing to withdraw support for a Labour candidate during the course of a by-election. It's a tough decision, a necessary decision. But when I say the Labour Party has changed under my leadership, I mean it. I set out 4 years ago to tear anti-Semitism out of the Labour Party. It's the first thing I said I'd do as Labour leader, and to change our party. I've taken a series of decisions along those lines, ruthlessly changing our party, and it's made no difference to me where somebody stands in the Labour Party. The change I brought about is a Labour Party that is now back in the service of working people. Voters in Rochdale will have to determine who they vote for, but I'm not prepared to put forward a Labour candidate unless I think that candidate is fit to be a Labour MP.
Well, I'm joined now by the former Labour Adviser Aisha Ali-Khan, who joins us on the show. Welcome to the show, Aisha. Fantastic to have you on here. So, Sir Keir Starmer took tough and decisive action, but he took his time, didn't he? Do you think the whole sorry event has left a stain over the Labour Party? Once again, their Palestine problem re-emerges to haunt them.
Absolutely. I think as soon as these comments came to light by Azhar Ali over the weekend, there should have just been a single decision made, no U-turns, no questions asked, suspension straight away. I think this is looking so bad for not just Sir Keir Starmer, but the Labour Party as well. It's such a shame, really, because the Rochdale election is literally a matter of weeks away now, the 29th of this month. And it is going to be quite a colourful election. We've got Simon Danchuk standing as well, the former Rochdale MP, as an independent. We've got a number of other people standing. So this is the one thing that we didn't need as a Labour member. This is one thing that we just did not need this close to the 29th of February.
Aisha, can I ask you a simple question which baffles me? Why do the Labour Party care more about what's going on in Gaza than what's going on in Glasgow or Gillingham or Gateshead? What is it about the obsession with Gaza?
I think let's look at what's going on right now. There is a horrific situation developing since October, following the Hamas attacks in Israel. And I think what a lot of people feel passionately about, and even people who had previously who had no interest in the region, by the way, the images that are coming out, that have been coming out of Gaza since October, since the offensive started, the Israeli offensive, they're just really horrific. And that's really galvanized and mobilized a lot of people to speak out. I mean, these are human rights abuses that are going on. These women, children, elderly, vulnerable people are being killed. So absolutely, we have every right to speak about it. And before you say anything, the hostage situation should be resolved. We need the return of the remaining hostages that are still being held by Hamas. What happened on the 7th of October was an atrocity. It should never have happened. It should not be weaponized by what's going on right now with the political scene in the UK. And people are going to speak out. And it's wrong to say that members of my party care more about Palestine than they do local issues here in the UK. What's happening right now is a war going on, and of course we're going to talk about it, and of course people are going to be massively affected and massively emotional about it.
I'd like to interject, because it's all fine, of course, to care about conflicts overseas, but when there's a feeling, a very real manifestation of the toxicity of this now manifesting itself in British politics. We saw Mike Freer, Conservative MP, resigning, standing down from his seat because, of course, he was confronted by the guy that murdered David Amos. We've seen last night Tobias Ellwood had pro-Palestine protesters outside his house. Labour Party MPs in London as well being harangued, schools being closed, bomb threats, death threats. I'm just putting it to you that this conflict now seems to be poisoning the well of British public life.
Well, I cannot agree with any of the situation that's happening. Nobody should be made to feel unsafe. Nobody should be hounded out of politics. I've spent nearly 2 decades arguing and campaigning for people to enter politics. Politics should be made safe. You'd feel safe as a politician. So I cannot agree with the actions. And just incidentally, a few months ago, I live in a town called Keighley, and we had the local Starbucks, the windows were broken, McDonald's, the windows were smashed. And I spoke out then as well, because this is, in my opinion, this is not an effective way to campaign and protest and speak out about your feelings and how, about what's going on in Gaza. Because what happens is the focus is then shifted from the situation on the ground in Gaza to what's going on in the UK, and it turns people away, and that's not acceptable in my opinion. Everybody has a right to speak out, but you can't do so at the expense of other people and their safety. And it pains me, because we want people to be able to use their voices and speak out and feel heard and so on, but not if it's going to offend people, not if it's going to cause alarm or harm. And attending protests, I mean, I've spent years organising protests as well. I think everybody should we live in a democracy right now. We have every right to attend protests. We have every right to, pick up a placard, go and join other people and speak out, but not if it's going to cause harm to other people. There has to be boundary. And what Azhar Ali said as well, the comments were completely unacceptable. I have many Jewish friends. I have some Israeli friends as well. There's no way that these comments could not have failed to cause harm. It's almost a form of victim blaming. And honestly, Keir Starmer should have taken decisive action, complete suspension. Let's talk about it after the by-election, but at least that would have sent a much more strong, much more powerful message than what's happened right now.
Do you think purging the Labour Party of the more radical Islamic voices in itself, though, could create a fresh problem? We're seeing independent candidates standing there because they're not welcome in the Labour Party ranks. Could we see the emergence of a more radicalised form of Islamic politics emerging in Britain, which could be potentially an even bigger problem?
I think what we need to look at, politics of any kind, both the main two political parties have always been seen as a broad church. You've got the far left, you've got the centre, you've got the centre right, and so on. And this is, of course, for the Conservative Party as well. I think we cannot keep quiet if we think, if we expel somebody, then that person is going to go and stand against us. That's fear. And we shouldn't be bound by this fear. We shouldn't be held hostage to this fear. We need to make decisions and stick by them and have that conviction as well that what we are doing is right. But also we need to keep members of the parties so that they can feel safe as well, so we can hear those voices as well. And I know a lot of people that have been involved in politics, and when they're confronted by certain sort of members from the far left or and so on, they've had to deal with a lot of bullying, a lot of online abuse, and that's not been fair either. And I speak today as a Pakistani British Muslim woman, and I felt, this party, I've voted Labour all my life. My family have always, and not only voted, campaigned as well for the Labour Party. we're important. We need to be heard. It's not just about the Muslim men, and then they should not be the only ones that are heard and only ones invited to sit at the table and partake in politics. We all need a voice as well. And I speak not only on my own behalf, but I speak on behalf of many British Muslim women who want to get involved in politics, regardless of which political affiliation. But we feel that we can't, because that position has already been taken by some Muslim men who will not allow us, who are gatekeepers. And that in itself, I know that's a separate conversation to what we're talking about right now, but I think it's important to be able to air these opinions and these feelings on whatever platform we have an opportunity to speak on.
Great. Well, we had an opportunity to speak today, and thank you for being so open and forthright and frank with us. Aisha Ali-Khan, former Labour Party advisor, thanks for joining us on the show today. Much, much appreciated. Now, of course, Azhar Ali has since apologised for his comments. Now, here are the candidates standing in the Rochdale by-election. They are Azhar Ali, Labour Party; Mark Coleman, Independent; Simon Danczuk, Reform UK; Ian Donaldson, Liberal Democrat; Paul Ellison, Conservative; George Galloway, Workers' Party of Britain; Michael Howarth, Independent; William Howarth, Independent; Guy Otten, Green Party; and Raving Rodent Subordinate, official monster Raving Loony Party; and David Tully, who's also standing as an independent.